Hi there, little berry true crime fans. Berry Berry here, and hello to the kitty ears again. I love these. I love them so much. This was a gift from the wife. I love it. Anywho, we are going to do another reaction today to the bizarre case of the bizarre case of Stephen McDaniel. I love these JCS psychology ones. It spawns so many, homages, I suppose, to it, which I might do other reactions of. So if you've got an idea, please send me a link or a suggestion. Somebody did actually suggest that I react to the True Crime Loser, reaction to it. But then I said to them, like, reacting to a reaction, no, I'd rather just react to the original. Now, there's loads of footage online that you can look at about this case, but the JCS ones are very nicely condensed with all of the relevant information involved. It involves a lot of the psychology here. And if you look at the screen right now, the word stalking, this is a very, very serious subject, because stalking, it happens so many times. And most of the time stalking, although it's frightening and it can leave people living in fear, it doesn't always result in murder, but it does sometimes. Unfortunately, this is one of them. This guy, he's an odd one. I think we should just watch it.
Health professionals evaluate stalking. 4 essential items are taken into consideration. The nature of the relationship between the stalker and the victim, the stalker's motivations, the psychological, psychopathological, and social realities of the stalker, and the psychological and social vulnerabilities of the victim.
Really good to take that into account. Oh, what a picture. Ooh. But yeah, there's quite a lot of the time it involves an ex. It sometimes involves a fan and a celebrity, sometimes a complete unknown or an acquaintance. And this is what this is. He was known to the victim, but not very well known.
Subject of this episode is 25-year-old Stephen McDaniel, and to gain a deeper understanding of the foregoing components, we have to extract certain elements through the knowledge of hindsight. The disclosure of web browser data is often a crucial piece of evidence for building a case.
Yeah, one of the first things they do if you're ever, accused of doing something like this or anything else unspeakable, the first thing they do is seize your computer and look at the history, or they basically rip your computer to pieces to try and find anything. Is it me, or is that stare? I take it he's looking at his lawyer. That stare, it's just... Is it me, or does he look like he's got the same kind of effect and look as Stephanie Lazarus? There's just no expression. It's in the sort of the focus of the eyes. And I find the same with psychopaths and people who have they're very flat effect, is their eyes don't tend to change shape. They tend to stay the same.
Next time was spent watching porn that surrounded the theme of violence and torture. He would also conduct back-to-back searches of how to commit sexual assault, and would type in several variations of the phrase, how to molest sleeping girl.
He was training to be a lawyer.
This is an overt sign of desensitization
you should know that
to sexual
this
activity.
kind of search history would be protected.
Excessive exposure to online pornography can have this effect over time. It can build up a tolerance to the traditional idea of sex. Therefore, the subject may continue a more potent form of stimuli to get the same rush.
That sometimes happens with people who are psychopaths by nature. Their brains are different to the norm, is that even at a very young age, they'll start to do things such as they'll start to push boundaries, they'll commit petty theft, they'll harm animals before they start harming people, and eventually start murdering. It's an escalation, because each time they do something, they become desensitized to it. It's a bit like drug use. They start with the softer drugs, moving on to harder drugs, because the softer drugs don't do it for them anymore. I suppose it's an addiction, really, that they enjoy the thrill, because psychopaths have a very limited emotional spectrum, I suppose. And to be able to feel anything, they have to do extreme things. And the reality and the playing out of fantasy doesn't always give them the feeling that they want. So the thrill of the chase is a lot more satisfying than the actually doing it. And that's why they go further and further. That's quite a lot of the time why psychopaths, they don't stop. Their biggest weakness is themselves. They don't stop. They keep going. They keep going, keep going. And they believe that they are untouchable. And they believe that nobody else will be there to figure them out. And they underestimate other people.
For Stephen McDaniel, this began with watching abstract material on the internet and eventually led him to planning and then carrying out what he saw on screen. His target was 24-year-old Lauren Giddings, his next-door neighbor of 3 years. And this takes us to item 4 of the forensic checklist. With respect to social vulnerabilities, the victim essentially had none. Lauren was outgoing and extremely popular. She was a well-liked member of her community.
This is another reason why psychopaths and sociopaths, they pick on certain people because they know they are vulnerable. And this young lady, as JCS is saying, she wasn't. So he had to do certain things to not make her vulnerable, but think of things to do despite her not having the vulnerabilities.
With relation to psychological vulnerabilities, the term perceptual naivety would potentially come to light during a forensic investigation. Stephen had asked her out on a date within 6 months of their acquaintance, which was reportedly only the second time they had ever spoke. Lauren declined, but stated she would like to remain friends, which was only her being courteous and trying to soften the blow of rejection. She would later tell her actual friends that Stephen made her feel extremely uneasy and was uncomfortable to be around. It may have seemed like a non-essential observation at the time, but in hindsight, it appears that her instinctive senses were trying to tell her something. Lauren had told her friends multiple times that she felt someone had been inside her apartment, and she also started getting an eerie vibe when she came back alone, especially late at night. It was as though she could sense something wasn't right, and she even thought about moving multiple times, but unfortunately never went through with it. The reality was that Stephen McDaniel had stolen a master's key from a security guard and let himself into her apartment and looked around on several occasions. He also started filming her when she would leave and return to her apartment during all hours of the day. Had Lauren been in this situation,
had that key not been reported and people's places being searched, and if she felt that somebody was coming into her house to the point that she was thinking of leaving, the people she told should have realized that that was a red flag and reported it to, I don't know, property, or I don't know. It's all right to say in hindsight, I suppose, but
before, or even knew anyone that had, she may have trusted her intuition and unknowingly saved herself from a tragic fate. But that's the key word: trust. She had no proof of the danger she was in, only conviction, which unfortunately wasn't strong enough when it was most needed.
Oh my God. Is he out? Yeah, he's outside, isn't he? He's outside looking in. Oh my God. Hours.
Stephen McDaniel snuck into Lauren's apartment once more, only this time she was sleeping inside. As he crept into her bedroom, she awoke and immediately panicked once she saw the intruder. McDaniel then pounced on top of her and proceeded to strangle her for roughly 15 minutes. Lauren put up a courageous fight and clawed at her attacker's face and chest, but she was eventually overpowered and died of asphyxiation. After the murder, Stephen dismembered Lauren's body in the bathtub with a hacksaw. He cut his victim into 5 pieces.
He must have planned to do this. It wasn't just a case of she woke up and he thought, oh, I have to kill her.
Separate trash cans around
He must
campus.
have planned it.
3 days later, Lauren's concerned friends would arrive at her apartment and let themselves in with a spare key. McDaniel would notice from his window and invited himself inside as he offered to help.
Super creepy.
All of her belongings were still inside, including her cell phone, driver's license, and passport. A missing persons report was filed that night. A search party commenced the next morning, and police would discover the victim's torso at 9:40 a.m. It was placed in a trash can next to the apartment complex. The rest of the victim's remains were never recovered. The investigation was then switched from a missing person to murder. Police canvassed the surrounding area and began conducting interviews with neighbors and classmates, one of whom was Stephen McDaniel. He was first interviewed by the local news, and at the time was unaware that part of the victim's remains had been discovered.
We're just trying to find out where she is at this point. I mean,
He's shaking it. We're trying to find out where she is. No, you're not.
no one has seen her since Saturday. I mean, the last time anyone heard from her was an email that she sent out, and no one's heard from her since.
How does he know nobody's seen or heard from her?
Person was she? I mean, how did you? What did
The interviewer is referring to her in the past tense, and in terms of, what kind of person was she? If it were a case of they didn't know that she was dead, it would be, what can you tell us about Lauren? And he doesn't react to this in a way of saying, you know, why are you referring to her like that? He already knows she's dead.
She's as nice as can be. I mean, very personable,
Again, shaking the
very
head.
much a people person.
Oh, no, she's a people person. So he agrees with that. She's very much a people person.
We just don't know where she is.
What about in the parking lot area? I know they've been doing a lot of. I think that's where they have recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Body.
Had you heard? Had you seen anything there? Had you seen anything there? I mean, we don't know if this is the same person. You know what I mean? Like, they took out a body there earlier. We don't know if it's the same person or not. So that's how we're trying to ask people if they know who lived there. Are you okay, sir?
I think I need to sit down.
Okay.
This is most likely a genuine reaction disguised as another. He is most likely feeling a sense of fear and shock over the fact a substantial piece of evidence has been discovered. Yet he plays it off as a feeling of sorrow over the loss of his supposed friend.
Why would anyone do this? Maybe I could have helped. I mean, they went in, we looked around the place. No sign of a struggle, no sign that anyone had broken in.
Okay, so a little bit of background is that when Lauren's friends went to the apartment, they didn't actually let themselves in. He had a spare key. He went in with them, looking around. He acted all, I don't know where she's gone. Oh, what about this? What about that? Try and get themselves involved in the search, like Ian Huntley did when Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman went missing. Get themselves involved.
He was interviewed by police at 11:50 a.m. and offered to help in any way he could, yet came across as fidgety and apprehensive the entire time. There were two highlighted
See, look at his
moments
body
of the
language here.
interview.
Look how he's
when
behaving.
Stephen asserted that he was
He's
a
moving
virgin,
his
saving
hand.
himself for marriage. The second was when the detective discovered scratch marks on his face and stomach, which he asserted were done by himself in his sleep. He at that point unknowingly became the prime suspect and was asked if police could search his apartment. Stephen reluctantly accepted and was then transported back to the complex with 4 other investigators. While searching his apartment, they discovered a collection of swords, guns, toilet rolls, stockpiled provisions as if he was expecting an apocalyptic event, and a mask made out of women's underwear. The most significant discovery, however, was a pack of condoms. Stephen was asked why he would have such an item in his possession if he was staying celibate before marriage, at which point he miraculously confessed to stealing them from another apartment. This gave the detectives probable cause for arrest, and Stephen was placed in handcuffs and brought back to the police station. His interrogation began just after 11 p.m.
Like that. He's going to be so robotic and so just switched off right now.
You came down earlier tonight, me and you talked, all right. You don't have any weapons on you, do you? No. That's just you are. What's wrong? You know Detective Patterson, right?
So they already know each other. They've already spoken.
Put your hands up here. You remember us talking earlier tonight, right? Yes. You remember me earlier in the day?
Yes.
When we came down here and talked a little bit and then we left?
Yes.
Okay.
The monotone dialogue and lifeless demeanor you see here reportedly started on the drive back to the police station, and the suspect's conduct throughout the entire procedure is not only mystifying, but almost impressive. This is one of the most extraordinary pieces of interrogation footage to ever reach the public domain.
I need to know
He is
about this girl
in a league of his own.
You know her?
Yes.
Who is that?
Lauren Giddings.
Does she live next door to you?
Yes.
When's the last time you seen her?
2 or 3 weeks ago.
Okay. Was you friends with Lauren?
Yes.
Look at me when you talk to me, son. Okay?
The suspect has morphed himself into this abnormal and extremely creepy character. Whether it's a strategy or some sort of mental breakdown is unclear. But what's
It's his way of controlling the
somewhat
situation.
dictates the pace of the interrogation. The detective has just closed the distance and commanded eye contact, both of which are recognized techniques to increase psychological pressure. Yet the absurdly haunting manner in which the suspect turns his head and fixes his gaze unnerves the detective to the point where he becomes the one to look away and reset his posture. This essentially never happens in interrogations, as it can give the suspect an incredible boost.
But I can understand why he would creep anyone out.
Okay? Was you friends with her?
Yes.
Close friends?
We were good.
I mean, y'all were friends, right?
He's talking like he's sedated.
You're studying to be an attorney, right?
Yes.
What kind of law do you want to go into? Criminal law?
Yes.
Is that what you want to do for a living?
Yes.
Okay.
The detective steps back from his initially aggressive strategy. He asks trivial questions for 35 seconds before attempting to ramp up
It's
the
near
pressure
him,
in
not
a more
across
subtle
from him.
manner.
And you've lived next to Lauren for a long time?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know where she's at tonight?
No.
Hmm?
No.
Have you ever seen her with that dress on?
No.
You have no idea where she's at?
No.
Yes.
He's still... Oh, I can't do that without blinking.
Just tell me what happened, brother.
I don't know.
Well, where's she at? I need you.
He's going straight in there with the... Where is she?
I'm a
I need you to
detective.
tell me.
Can you help me?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? You can't help a friend out?
I don't know what you need.
I need to know where Lauren's at.
I don't know.
Do you even care that no one can find her?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. Do you?
Yes.
See, he's answering the questions, but just not giving anything further.
What's up with the pair of underwear that was in your apartment?
I
That was
don't
like
know.
a mask. It was cut out like a mask. Do you cut underwear out that look like mask?
No.
Are you a knife collector or a knife person, or
No.
you just like knives?
I used to collect swords.
I mean, do you know your swords?
Yes.
I mean, to sell and trade swords?
No.
Is that how Lauren looked with the long hair the last time you seen her?
Yes.
Or did she cut? That's how she looks.
Yes.
I mean, earlier today, me and you sit here and talk normal. What's going on with you now?
Just hours earlier, he was like, la 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 la.
I need to know. Why all of a sudden you're acting like this?
I don't understand.
Okay. Earlier today, we sat here and talked.
This is making me frustrated.
Now
I don't know about you guys. I want to get out of him and
what's
go,
going on?
wake up!
You got your ass on that fucking news and stood out there and gave a media report that her mother saw about her missing daughter. And you want me to sit there and tell him that you don't know? Is that what you want me to tell him? Because you're all over the news. You sure stood out there and ran your mouth to the news media. But now you're going to get out here and you don't fucking know. You know. You're just a sorry piece of shit that don't give a fuck. Right?
No.
Well, why'd you tell the media everything? Do you need to see what you told the media today? It was on the 11 o'clock news. Well, I'm asking you. Tell me. I want to know. You didn't stand in front of that camera and say, I don't know. I don't know.
If you're going to confront somebody about you're acting like this and you're acting like this, they're just going to keep acting like that. They're not going to break character to please you.
I need you to tell me what you want me to tell her mother. And then I won't ask you another thing.
Well, believe me,
I'm not
you
gonna
don't
tell
want to
her
know
mother
what he
that you
wants to
don't
tell her
know.
mother.
Because her mother saw you.
Probably going to be something evil.
And she cried all the way down to Macon. Because you had the balls to get on the news and tell everybody everything. So this little act that you're doing right now ain't working with me. Okay? So you can just snap out of it and tell me what the hell happened. If you did something that you regret, you need to let me know.
I didn't.
Well, who did?
I don't know.
Whether it was planned or not, the second detective enters the room with a similar strategy of immediate aggression. Rapport development seems to have been collectively thrown by the wayside.
Because I suppose they sort of like developed rapport earlier that day
Somebody's guns.
in the previous
When was the last time
interview.
you shot those guns?
But here they're...
You've never shot a gun?
No.
Have you ever shot any gun in your whole life?
No.
Never.
No.
So you bought 3 guns that you've never shot.
Yes.
Why?
To have.
For what?
To have.
For what? I'm asking for what? Why do you want to have them? What makes, did they give you, I mean, tell me why it's important to you to have 3 guns.
He's stop moving.
That's an easy question. Come on, talk to me, buddy. Me and you talked all day.
You've seen
today.
Stepford
We
Wives.
didn't have a problem communicating. Why is it important for you to have 3 guns?
Stepford Stephen.
You told me earlier you and Lauren were friends, right?
Yes.
How would you describe y'all's relationship?
She was my friend.
She was your friend. What, did you ever do things for her? Did she ever do things for you? What did she ever do for you?
We talked.
What'd y'all talk about?
News.
The news?
If you were in this position,
yes.
how would you deal with this if someone was behaving like that?
I mean,
Would you
1
give a
time,
stare
2
out?
times, 3 times what?
I'll probably just get my phone, so I'm just going to play Candy Crush,
Maybe
all right,
2.
while you think about
See,
what
if
you're going to
I
say
had
next.
only been somewhere twice, I could remember that. If I had been there over 50 times and you asked me how many times, I'd be like, I don't know, a lot. But the fact that you've only been there twice, when I say how many times you've been there, you say you don't know, that's just odd to me. Does that make sense to you?
I think the questions they're asking are
That does make sense.
pretty
So
good.
what I'm saying right now
It's
makes
just
sense.
how they're doing it.
Lauren's missing. This pretty little girl right here, your neighbor, she's missing.
Much like Detective 1, Detective 2 now valiantly moves in for the psychological charge. He closes the distance and locks eye contact. His physical demeanour, alongside a prolonged gaze, will hopefully crack the suspect's fortified barrier. Once broken, the momentum will commence and the suspect will be more likely to divulge incriminating information. All the detective has to do is maintain eye contact for longer than his adversary. It's a psychological battle of attrition between 2 opposing forces, and these moments can sometimes last for minutes on end.
Yeah.
Me and you both know it's no different than when you was a little kid, right? And you reached in that cookie jar. And
Oh,
you
the
got
cookie
caught
jar
after your mom told you
analogy.
not to get that cookie because you know you did something bad. Am I right?
I didn't do it.
You didn't take the cookie?
No.
Do it. They haven't said what it is yet. They found the body, but they've not been able to determine 100% that that is definitely her. They haven't identified it yet. I mean, likelihood is yes.
No.
Or cause of death.
Stephen, you telling me you live like a man? How does your apartment get cleaned?
I cleaned it.
When was the last time you cleaned it, Stephen?
I don't remember.
Was it this week?
No.
You mean you go a whole week without cleaning?
Yes.
Why? That's horrible, Stephen.
Yeah. I believe him.
You telling me you looked at a pretty girl like that and you never once thought, ever, man, she looks good. You never thought that? You know how when you're sitting there, you see a girl walking down the road, and you say, man, that girl looks good. You ever see a good-looking girl down the road, you think to yourself, man, that girl looks good.
Yes.
You never thought that about her?
Yes.
So you mean to tell me you look at porn on the internet and get off to that, but you never looked at her and said, man, I wonder what it'd be like to have sex with her?
Yes.
You have?
No.
Yes. No. What? To which one?
Stephen, this is hard, buddy. I know this is hard.
Don't.
And I can tell it's on you. You want to let it go.
I don't think he
There's
wants to
blood
touch
in your
him.
apartment, Stephen. You didn't get it all up.
This is the widely recognized futility technique, which is used to make the subject believe it is useless to resist due to the overwhelming evidence against them. It's most effective when the interrogator can play on doubts that already exist in the subject.
Also, if they have 2 people, like accomplices, for example, they say one has told the cops exactly what had happened, and then they tell the other one that the other one had told them what happened. They haven't. They try and play it off to each other, which I don't really think is fair, because it could make them confess to things that aren't true. Sometimes you can, you can doubt your own judgment. But he knows full well that he didn't dismember Lauren in his own apartment. There would be no reason for any blood anywhere at all to be in his apartment. only in her apartment. He knows that. So that's why he's not breaking.
Mind. The only problem here is that Stephen didn't dismember Lauren inside his apartment. It all happened in Lauren's apartment, so the detective's bluff is already called at this point.
But we can tell that. Don't you watch CSI?
They say that, but in Stephanie Lazarus' case, Sherry's family were told you watch too much CSI, and also the parents of and the family of Holly Bartlett. The parents asked for CCTV footage GPS of the taxi that took her home, and the detective said very rudely, "You watch too much CSI." Yeah, for a reason.
Stephen, why is there blood in your bathroom?
The detective now completely shifts his strategy from confrontational and aggressive to sympathetic and understanding. He attempts to create a
really
connection
shouldn't laugh
and
at
then
that, but
affords Stephen
sorry,
a
it's
more
funny.
socially acceptable reason for the crime. The usual routine is the exact opposite. You would first build rapport and then get aggressive once a connection has been attained.
I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell it. I wanted to be here with you to go through that process because I know you're not a monster, man. I know you're not a bad guy.
You're not a bad person.
You got a lot of support from your family, do you?
Yeah.
You're not a bad person, but you did kill and dismember somebody. It doesn't make you a bad person.
Stephen immediately shuts down the afforded sympathy and reasoning behind the alleged
He's already made
crime,
up his mind
which
what he's
was the
going to do.
concept of unsupported
Nothing's going to
parents.
work here.
But the detective now attempts to roll with it.
If he's giving them the silent treatment, they should give him the silent treatment. So fine, if you're not going to help us, we're not going to help you.
Should make things easier because your family wants to feel like they've raised somebody that tells the truth and is honest, right?
He doesn't care about anybody but himself, so his own family, Lauren's family, nothing they say is going to work here.
I've made mistakes in my life. It's not even normal to say you've never hurt anybody. Sometimes people get mad and they say things they don't mean to say. It hurts. You never kicked a dog or a cat?
The lead detective then asks non-confrontational questions for almost 30 minutes, which is most likely to see if it will change the suspect's demeanor and the manner in which he responds. But it doesn't. Stephen maintains the same lifeless disposition which he has now kept up for almost 90 minutes.
Well, why is it that you're acting so short with us tonight?
But they say, why are you being like this? Because I am.
Why is it that everything that we get from you is yes, no, or I don't know? You see how I'm able to talk in complete sentences? Like we're having a conversation, but the only thing you're
calling somebody out on how they're acting is not going to stop them acting that way.
Like that girl?
No.
Would you tell me if you did?
Yes.
Have you lied to me at all in this interview?
No.
Yes, you have, Stephen. When was the last time you did laundry?
A few weeks ago.
Do you wear the same pair of underwear more than one day?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's still clean enough to wear.
No.
Where's that little girl, Stephen?
I don't know.
Stephen, you know.
I don't know.
Yes, you know. What are you going to say tomorrow when I say we got your hair? What are you going to say to me then?
This hair can be explained because he went into the apartment with everybody else.
Stephen went inside Lauren's apartment with her friends 3 days after she was already deceased. This would give reason for his DNA being found at the scene, and would essentially nullify its use as damnatory evidence.
He knows that.
Stephen, being a law student, would be well aware of this.
Because you know what? I don't believe that you're a monster, Stephen. I believe that you're a good guy. You've been picked on. Girls didn't show you the respect that you deserved. You did something stupid. And I believe you feel bad about it. And that's why you're all freaked out right now. Your hair is there. That's right, buddy. See that? Look at it. Do you remember moving the body?
No.
Yes, you do, Stephen. Why, man? Why? Tell me, bud.
I didn't do it.
Yes, you did, Stephen. We want you to tell it so that way people will understand you're not a monster. Things just, you got out of control. It's a sickness. Why'd you do it, Stephen?
The more he's getting irate, the more Stephen wins.
Why are you going to keep telling that? You hurt that girl.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did, Stephen. You heard her, man. She was screaming. Screaming, Stephen. Why? And I know you feel bad about it. I can see it in your face.
No.
Stephen. That's right. It's all sinking in right now. He knows, is what you're thinking. Stephen, I don't want it to be a game between me and you. I know it hurts, and I know you're not an awful person, and you want to
Oh,
tell
please
me.
stop.
Your hair was there, Stephen.
Your hair
We've all known
was
it
there.
all along.
No, it's not.
You said earlier you like girls, right?
Yes.
You said she's a pretty girl, right?
Yes.
What'd you do to her, Stephen?
I didn't do anything.
You're lying. You hurt that girl.
No, I didn't.
Sure it did, and that's why you're having this massive meltdown right now.
The detective quite literally repeats the phrase, "You hurt that girl," to which Stephen responds, "No, I didn't," and this goes on for the best part of 20 minutes. Perhaps the detective's strategy was to induce mental exhaustion, yet it had no effect whatsoever.
You hurt her, Stephen.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
Is it me or is his voice breaking a bit?
I'm gonna take this from me. You don't deserve to look at it. Just stay right here, okay?
Okay.
He reminds me of a little
Appreciate all
child
the
that's just
cooperation.
been found out
Fine, okay?
and is just clammed right up. He's not moving an inch.
All right, we're getting ready to go. I just need to.
He's not even fidgeting or moving his
The
feet.
lead detective now abandons the pursuit of any sort of admission.
So one thing I noticed about this interview, and I noticed it with I'm going to say it again, Jodie Ayres, I've mentioned it so many times, I might react to that one next, is quite a lot of time the detectives don't stop talking. They ask questions, but then they follow it with a further question and a further question, compound questions, or a cluster of questions. Give them time to answer.
Neighbor, or you just locked yourself in all week?
Yes.
Nobody saw you?
No.
I mean, what do you just stay in the house all day?
Yes.
I mean, what do you do all day in the house? I mean, you've always done that your whole life? You don't have no friends?
I have
How can you go
friends.
your whole life without a friend?
I have friends.
Where they at? Hmm? Where they at? You have any friends here in Macon?
Yes.
Name one, because everybody I talked to said they ain't your friend.
Ryan Granger, Cass Lawson, Ashley Morehouse, Carmen Love.
That's the same people I talked to today, and they're not your friend. Okay?
Sometimes the
One
term
of the
between
reasons
friend and
interrogations
acquaintance.
are so fascinating is the ethical vacuum it creates for everyone inside its bubble. In any other circumstance, the detective's behavior here would be considered cruel and reprehensible. He's essentially bullying the suspect, yet the empathy we would normally have is now stripped away through the impression of retribution. We know this person has done something horrific, and the treatment he is now receiving is merited through his own actions.
I didn't do anything.
I didn't do anything, oh yes. Dahlia all over
We
again.
know different. So, you're fucked either way. We know you killed her. We know you put her body in the trash can. The news media knows it. Glenda knows it, your mother. Your sister knows it. Your sister's husband knows it. The one that used to beat your sister, he knows it. You know what he said? He said he's a crazy motherfucker, is what he said. When I called him.
Yeah, like that's going to make him start
Your
talking.
family calling you crazy.
The entire interrogation took over 2 hours. When sped up by 20,000%, you truly get a glimpse of how remarkable the suspect's catatonic performance was.
Catatonic is a word. Definitely a word to describe this. If I sat down for that long without moving my legs, they'd eventually go to sleep. If I try to get up, I'd probably probably end up falling.
It's difficult to interpret the reasoning behind the performance, whether it was a pre-planned strategy, improvised in the moment, or some type of psychological breakdown is unclear. But whatever it was, it evidently seemed to work, as the interrogators got nothing. Hundreds of pictures of Lauren were discovered on Stephen's flash drive, along with multiple
He
video
probably knew
recordings
that
inside
he
her
was,
apartment.
you
A
know,
hacksaw was
he
found
couldn't
in the
go anywhere,
supply
so he thought,
closet
well,
of
what's
the
the point of me
apartment
talking?
complex, and it was marked red with what was later identified as Lauren's blood through DNA testing. When confronted with the evidence, he took a plea deal to avoid the death penalty, and was rendered a life sentence without the possibility of parole. He is currently being held at the high-security Hancock State Prison in Sparta, Georgia.
Good to be back. Hope
Love
you're
this
doing
guy.
well. Man, it's been a slog. We are deep in the troll vortex of insanity.
He says he's got troll hair.
It's like cave diving, but a lot more dangerous.
So, there we are. This guy is crazy. Yes, he avoided the death penalty by taking a plea deal. He knew he was not going anywhere. Completing law school and then studying for the bar. You have to have some brains to do that. He's just evil. He's just someone who, yeah, I'm glad that he's never going to get parole. And I think maybe he is all right with that. But that staring look, as I said before, I remember a psychologist saying that you can often tell when someone's a psychopath or a sociopath because it's in the eyes. His eyes are so unsettling. Right, which one do you want me to do next? Do you want me to react to Jodi Arias, Chris Watts, the pretending to be crazy one, or another one altogether? If you do, link down below, please. And if you want to subscribe, go ahead. And thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.